It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the heartland, that'll have you saying, by George, I think he's got it. Now, here's George.
Here we go. Hello. Hi. How are you? Welcome on in to another podcast by George. Folks, we got a big show today. We're going to have a live guest live from Ukraine talking about the war and its impact on his life, his family's lives, his friends. He's a native, and he's got a lot to say, and he's trying to get the word out. He's like the Edward R. Murrow of Ukraine. That's the way that I think about it. I mean, he's telling the tale, and he's here on the podcast by George LiveLine today to talk to all of us. And I want to encourage anybody that's joining us here as we go along, if you want to make a comment, if you want to ask a question of Serge Tagmaredno, please do so. Now, Serge is a musician. He's a singer, he's a songwriter, he's in Kyiv, Ukraine. And I'm going to bring this map up here to start with to kind of give us a look at where he's located. And you can see here towards the top, this is the capital city. These are the Russian forces that are invading. You've heard all about that. And they're moving on a city down here in this Gulf area. And that's some of the latest news that we're going to get to today. And I wanted to bring up Sergei's most recent Facebook post and to give you an idea of what he's doing here and how he's trying to keep people apprised. He says, 15th day of the Russian war against Ukraine. 70 children died because of Russian terrorist forces from the start of the full-scale war. More than 100 injured. Chinese officials calling this war a war for the first time and refused to supply parts for Russian aircrafts. Almost all worldwide corporations are banning Russia. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lavrov, said that Russia does not plan to attack other countries, but Sergei points out that at the same time he said Russia didn't attack Ukraine. Good Lord. Russian forces that are supposed to capture Kyiv are destroyed. So, and that's something we can talk about too. Now, I'm not a military expert, and Sergei's a musician, but let's see if we can get him to come into the broadcast here. There he is. You get to be a kind of a military expert when your country's under attack, when they've moved toward your city, and he's monitoring these developments very closely and can bring us up to date really by the minute here on the live line. Good afternoon, good evening to you, Sergei.
Nice to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, and I want to make sure that the internet connection is working all right. We kind of had a stall or a freeze there right off of the top. Let's hope that this thing continues to work for us. So maybe just start at the top here. Tell us about the day today.
Yes, you're freezing a little bit too. So today is the 16th day of war, actually, so your information not up to date. The main thing that was happened today is that Russian fighting jets, they took off from Belarus, entered the airspace, Ukrainian airspace, turned back and attacked 3 villages on the territory of Belarus. And we're expecting that they did it because they want to provoke Belarus military forces to enter Ukraine as well.
So for our listeners, viewers, actually, that you look like you're safe. You got electricity there, obviously. You're on the internet, but you're in your home. You're in your apartment. Can you kind of tell us where you're at?
Yes, I'm at my apartment. Well, I cannot tell that it's safe because there is no safe place all over the Ukraine, because they are pointing their missiles everywhere. Tonight, they attacked Ivano-Frankivsk, which is on the western side near the border. Today, they attacked Dnipro, which is in the center of Ukraine, and they attacked Lutsk, that is on the west as well. So they trying to destroy as much as they can to scare people here and convince them to give up, but that doesn't work, fortunately.
Now, have areas in Kyiv proper, in your neighborhood, in your area, for instance, have they been attacked? Have they been hit by bombardments? And are there air raid sirens that go off? Are there shelters for people like yourselves? Because an apartment doesn't sound like a very safe place to be to me.
Well, yes, but shelters are not so safe as well, because if the building above the shelter will be destroyed, you will be in a trap. So it's a gambling. So you don't know where will be safer.
Well, let's talk here about someplace that definitely is not safe. This is one of the worst things to date. And, folks, like I tell people all the time on my podcast, Sergey, it's kind of human nature, kind of natural to think that things are going to get better. And I mean, I know that's what music is all about. I mean, it's just the way that we are. But war is not a natural thing, folks. I mean, it's probably going to get worse. Let's hope that it doesn't. Let's hope that they can get these issues resolved and these people can be safe again, for God's sake. Because here's some of the most recent reporting, and man, it's all bad. Russians keep up pressure after a hospital airstrike. Now, this is reported by the Associated Press, Mariupol, Ukraine. Civilians trapped inside Mariupol desperately scrounged for food and fuel as Russian forces kept up their bombardment of the port city Thursday amid international condemnation over an airstrike a day earlier that killed 3 people at a maternity hospital. You probably saw that in the news, folks. Western and Ukrainian officials called the hospital attack in Mariupol a war crime by the Kremlin. The highest level talks held since the invasion began 2 weeks ago yielded no progress. The number of refugees fleeing the country topped 2.3 million, and Kyiv braced for an onslaught. Its mayor boasting that the capital had become particularly a fortress protected by the armed civilians. And I kind of think of your city as a kind of a crown jewel in a country that's a crown jewel. Ukraine, we didn't hear a lot about it until it broke into the news. We had a president here that had an impeachment proceeding against him, and that was included in part of it, not providing weapons and using it as a negotiating chip in a political fight. And the current president had a son on a utility board there, paid $60,000 a month. And so we started to become aware of what Ukraine was all about, you know, on the negative side. But it's a beautiful country, folks. It's a beautiful city. Ukraine has everything, and I'm sure Sergey can talk about this. I mean, they've got agriculture, they've got history, they've got industry, they've got seaports. It's just a lovely country, but they also have some of the things that all of the oligarchy wants, and that they've got precious metals, minerals, and oil reserves and gas also. And of course, that plays into this. This is what this is all about to a certain extent, and we can talk about that as well. But I want to kind of stay on the personal side here to start with, Sergey, because I mean, that's what I'm all about. I'm all of, you know, it's all about people. Tell us about your family. Now, you're there by yourself, but you've sent them to safety and they're okay, right?
Yes, fortunately, they made to cross the border with Poland. They're now in Warsaw, where my wife is working for her TV channel. It's one of the biggest TV channels, and they evacuated one of their teams to work from Warsaw because they are also targets of Russian militaries. You know that Russia is based on propaganda, and they are trying to destroy all the networking, all the broadcastings here, and do what they doing with people in Russia. So you can imagine that 150 millions of population of Russia, they are completely brainwashed, and they not receiving any truthful information, and they shut it down, all the social networks there, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and from today, Instagram. So, you know, I feel much easier when my family is out there, but there's a lot of other people from my family and my friends still in Kyiv. So I will be here till the end, and we will not let them to capture the city with no
Yeah, but
doubts.
there's so many angles, so much just in what you said that I would like to ask about. Now, your wife works for television stations. Some of the news that we heard was that three of the Russian, what we call the propaganda television stations, were shut down by Zelensky. They were taken off of the air. The television station that your wife worked for, now, most people in this country, Sergey, they still get their news, most people, from the major television networks. I mean, that's how they find out what's going on. Are they able to do that? Do you still have TV, or is that all off the air now?
Yes, we have TV from the first day of war. Or all Ukrainians they gathered around this problem. We have no more political issues at all. All the politicians that are Ukrainian and all the people uh, acting like one big team. So you can imagine it's more than 40 millions, including TV stations. They made one common air. They are broadcasting all over the Ukraine by shifts. So each channel has a team that works for 2 or 3 hours, providing people with latest news and warnings and alerts. And it's amazing because it's impossible to shut it down. They are
Mm.
broadcasting all over the uh, regular broadcasting stations, all over the internet, all over the digital networks, and all of the radio stations. So you cannot shut it down at all. So their plan to destroy our system of broadcasting and information uh, completely unsuccessful. They tried to even destroy our TV broadcasting tower in Kyiv, which is on the territory of the uh, memorial Babi Yar of Holocaust,
Yeah.
and that was terrible because there is no sense to destroy this broadcasting tower because yes, they probably will shut down few TV channels, but it won't affect at all. And it was scary because this memorial is very important for a lot of people. A lot of people died there, and we even have no words that they did it.
Yeah, and of course, knocking out a civilian or attempting to knock out a civilian radio or television network is, I mean, that's contrary to, again, the propaganda that is coming from the Kremlin because they want you to believe that they're only interested in military targets. Well, those television stations that you're talking about, and I love that underground nature of it, kind of pirate radio, pirate television, going mobile. I mean, staying on the air. What they're doing is they're informing civilians. And I mean, in a time of war, they need that. That can be their lifeline. That has to do with the things, the necessities. I mean, the humanitarian aid that could become the difference between life and death for civilians. So that's extremely important. Now, what about that humanitarian side of this? Again, where you're located, food, water. You mentioned the utilities that you still have some access to, but I mean, are the daily needs being met for the Ukrainians in your area?
In my area in Kiev, we are fine because their attempts to circle and surround the Kiev, they've all failed. Our military has destroyed almost all troops around Kiev, and we are fine, and they have no chances. But unfortunately, in cities like Mariupol, situation is terrible because they
Yes.
succeeded to surround the city. They are not letting any humanitarian help there, and people are running out of water and running out of food. And what is most scary, they have no access to cemetery, and they burying dead people to mass graves. That's terrible.
I know it. I just put that up on screen. My God, I mean that is, and people just don't think about it. These are things that we take for granted, but in times of war, nothing is taken for granted. Mariupol city resorting to mass grave amid shelling. This is what Sergei's talking about. With bodies piling up in Russia's 9-day siege of Mariupol, the port city of 430,000 in southeastern Ukraine. Local authorities are hurrying to bury the dead in mass graves. City workers made quick signs of the cross as they pushed bodies wrapped in carpets or bags into a deep trench some 80 feet long on the outskirts of the city. More than 70 bodies have been interred in the common grave since it was opened Tuesday. About half of those buried were killed in the intense shelling of the city, estimated an AP journalist who visited the burial ground. Others died at home from natural causes. We get this: authorities are unable to arrange for the collection of the bodies or their burial. That's how bad it is in Mariupol. And here's a photo. You know, I like to ride a bicycle, Sergey. I bet you do too. But my God, that's what bicycling is like in Mariupol. That's a picture that I think was taken just yesterday. Now, I want to bring this back up on screen here to show this map. Kyiv up here on the top part of the map. This is where Sergey is in his apartment. Mariupol down here is in the lower right. Now, why is that significant? What's that all about? Well, it's on this eastern edge of Ukraine that Russia wants to take back. That's got a lot to do with this. There are many factors, but one of the factors is they want to have access to these ports. I mean, their Navy wants to be able to use the Black Sea, the Odessa and Mariupols and all that type of thing, so they're running around down there just blowing the shit out of that city, Mariupol, that Sergey is talking about. Well, to get back to this humanitarian side of it, and I know you're safe and you're good for the time being, but kind of describe for us what a daily routine is like now for you. Family's gone, you're there kind of hunkered down in your apartment. Is that what everybody's doing, just staying inside, hunkering down? Is there any socializing that's taking place? And I got to ask you, what about COVID? I mean, just a few weeks ago in this country, there wasn't much socializing that was approved. I mean, you weren't supposed to be gathering and getting together. But are people doing that now? And is the war obviously taking precedent over safety when it comes to COVID?
Yeah, we have a joke from now on that Ukrainian army is the most powerful in the world because they defeated COVID.
Yeah.
So we have no problems, obviously, with COVID because, in time of war, you cannot think about you getting some cough and vaccination is pretty good here. So we do not have a lot of problems with that. But of course, we have problems with medical care, and it's just starting to settle, and things just starting to get better, because I had a situation right before the invasion. My father unfortunately has a cancer, and it was a urgent surgery, and we just got out from the hospital, and the war has started, and he felt worse because his kidney started to reject, and we had to put him back in the hospital. And then the full-scale invasion has started, and it was a terrible situation. Fortunately, he is getting better, but of course, when the war has started, we couldn't get any medical help, so mostly we did everything by ourselves. But fortunately, now we have some connection with some medical doctors, and we some of them are stocked in some places, like near Brovary city, near Kyiv, and they cannot go outside, but they are making doing their help by the phone. And only yesterday we found all medicals that he needs, all the pills, and the situation is all over the Ukraine is the same, because it's very difficult to get some medicines, unfortunately. But it's starting getting better. People are realizing and starting to adapt to the situation. Everyone helps each other. If you cannot find some medicines in your district, you can call your friends and they will probably find it in another pharmacy that is working. So the situation is not very good, but we are working on that. So my daily routine is mostly I'm making the interviews, doing some music, try to do some music because it helps to forget about everything.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
for 16 days you are seeing just dying people, destroyed buildings. It probably will affect your mental situation. And of course, I'm going to some grocery shops and pharmacies to get supplies to and bring them to my parents who live in other district of Kyiv. And of course, if my neighbors or someone I know needs something, I try to help, drive to some places and get something they need as well. And this situation is pretty much common for all the people who are stayed in Kiev, who are who have no experience in military like me. They are trying to do whatever they can to help the situation get better and to stop the war.
Well, I want to talk to you about your military experience and knowledge here because that's key. And by the way, I'm putting up a lower third of Chiron here, folks, and particularly on the audio now. If you're listening to this, Sergei's family is safe, but they're refugees. I mean, that's what they are. If you want to help his family, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to ask for help for himself, but if you want to help out Sergei's family, just go to SergeiUkraineFamily.org and you can help him out. That's UkraineFamily.org. And Sergey is spelled Serge. So I hope that folks will do that. I'll put those up on the screen as we go along. But we were talking about the military angle of this. And I'm very struck by the fact that in your writings and even early on this show, Sergey, you mentioned the fact that you're going to win this thing, that the Russians are in for a surprise. And I got to tell you that we have military experts here that are saying the same thing. Colonel Larry Wilkerson was just on the Paul J. show, and I've encouraged people to check out that interview. Larry Wilkerson is really knowledgeable. He's really good. And what he said flat out was this could be Putin's Waterloo. He's going to be sorry that he did this because he said that it will be over. Putin will be done in 2 years or less. I mean, it will not go well for him because Ukraine is not defenseless. They're not unused to war. I mean, you folks have, this isn't your first rodeo, as we say here. I mean, Ukraine is capable of defending itself, and it sounds like, to me anyway, that's exactly what's happening.
Yes, that's correct. For some period of time, we've been a neutral country, and we even gave up our nuclear weapon in '90s. So we never expected that someone will come to us with war, especially our northern and eastern neighbors like Russia and Belarus. But from 2014, when we had a revolution here, and when they used this situation to capture the Crimea Peninsula and try to capture a few our eastern regions, well, we understood that it's not going to work and not be defenseless. And of course, everybody is ready to protect their country because we have no backup plan. We cannot go anywhere from Ukraine. It's our homeland, and a lot of people are ready to protect and defend their homeland and stand till the end. And Ukraine is pretty big country. It's actually its biggest country in Europe.
Next to
And
Russia, yeah, it's second largest, yeah, and it's big.
well, yes, and we have more than 40 millions of
A lot
people
of
living
people.
here. Yeah, and they are all, including children and women, they are all ready to protect themselves. And what's most important, it's that modern war, it's not just a weapon and militaries. That's also an information war, and in a field of IT. A lot of IT companies and software development companies are based in Ukraine, and all our people who are working for that, they are working on all segments of this war. We are hacking their websites. We are putting down their services in Russia, and we doing whatever we can to show the Russian population what's going on, the truth. We have not very big advance in it because propaganda is still much stronger in Russia, but people that we are already turned and explain them what's going on, and it's pretty big.
Our internet connection was good early. Now it's deteriorating. Let's hope it stays together. I don't know, for whatever reason, it seems like on these feeds it kind of gets worse as we go along. But I'm particularly interested in your knowledge now. You have a military background. You have experience in the military?
No, no, no.
Okay. The question that I have is, and again, maybe just based on your general knowledge, having grown up there, they're telling us that the Russian conscripts are not crazy about this, that they're, they don't want to go kill Ukrainians. I think, honestly, when they look in their rearview mirrors, they see themselves. And I mean, they're not really up with this very much. Is that kind of the sense that you get? Do you think the Russian soldiers, the majority of them, really want to kill Ukrainians?
Well, we thought that they won't, but Russian Federation, it's not a country that populated on Russian people. Russia is pretty small, if you will look at it, and other nations that are live there, like from Chechnya or far away on the east, they're completely different, and they have completely different mentality. And well, a lot of prisoned soldiers, captured soldiers, they are telling that they were on a training, on exercising, and they didn't know that they are going to fight against Ukraine. But this story seems pretty unnatural, because from on the first few days that was looking like okay, that probably possible, but after 16 days of war, probably no one in Russia can tell that they are not aware about what's going on. So probably that isn't true. Maybe some soldiers really didn't knew, but I think most of them, they knew what they are doing. And from the documents that we are receiving when we capture their troops, we can see that they planned this war for a long period of time, and of course, a lot of people were in it.
Well, God, tribute to Sergey. I mean, the guy's brave. I'm telling you. Honest to God, Sergey, if it was me and I was in an apartment in Kyiv right now, I'd probably be rolled up in a fetal position under a desk or something like that, afraid that a missile was going to come in my window. I'm glad that your family's out. They're safe. I guess my question is, if things get bad, if they get worse, let's say your family needs you or you want to get out of there and join your family. Can you do that? Do you have confidence that you'll be able to do that if and when that day comes?
No, until the end of the war, I will stay here, and as most of the Ukrainians, and we have no option that we are going to give up or give in. So there is no way. And well, it's illegal to leave if you are from 18 till 60, and not much people are wanting to leave the country. Contrary, more than 200,000 people returned to Ukraine, mostly males, to protect them, their homeland. So we're not going to leave the country.
Well, just one last question here, and then I want to, and I imposed upon him earlier. Now, if you don't have time, Sergey, that's okay. If you got to go to another interview, I understand. But if you can play a little something for us on your acoustic guitar, that would be great, because this guy's a stellar musician, folks. But my last question might be the biggest, actually. There was a time in this country, Sergey, when I was young, when people here were very conscious of the potential for nuclear war. I mean, it was in their mind every day. Now, we've gone away from that, and maybe we shouldn't have, but we have, and people here aren't thinking about it on a daily basis. What about in Ukraine? What about right now in this war? What's the potential, do you think, for some kind of a nuclear outbreak? And again, is there any place for you to go? Is there any place for you to hide if something like that were to happen? Or is it just kind of you're in place and you're staying there?
Well, unfortunately, there will be no place on Earth. They will start the nuclear war that will be safe. And the main thing that all the world should know, that Russian missiles with nuclear weapon, they are not pointed to Ukraine, because it's a heritage of Soviet Union, and obviously you understand that they are pointed to other nuclear countries. So they can probably start some missiles from their warships, but that's not so easy. So the whole world will suffer from that, and we just hope that if Putin will make this decision, there will be some people with clear minds, and they will not let it happen.
Let's hope, and let's hope that an accident doesn't occur, because I don't have a lot of faith in the military in any respects, and this most recent invasion in Ukraine is a good example of that. Let's hope that some mishap doesn't happen that kind of starts a daisy chain that would be bad for everyone involved. Well, we got to let him go, but I wanted him to play some music, and I've got the YouTube address here. Just go to YouTube, and then it's Sergey's YouTube page. I'll spell his last name because it's Tiagnyridno. And if you search that on YouTube, you'll be able to find his music channel there. And there's a lot of great stuff there. I mean, he's got he does some Simon and Garfunkel stuff. It's really good. He's got Leonard Cohen that he covers. That's Hallelujah song. My God, it'll make you cry. It's just powerful music. And of course, he's got his original material too. And I guess maybe, Sergey, if you are going to play something, you might pick something that's very obscure or original, because if it's copyrighted, the YouTube people and the Facebook people get real weird about copyright music being played on the channel for some reason. So play what you got.
That's not a big problem, because you know that on a Facebook and YouTube it's already settled down. So if you play someone's song, the author will have some payment for that. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay.
That's legal. Okay, I can play you a song. Well, I will do in English, because, well, it's a song probably related to some kind of war, and it's an old song. Everybody knows it, and I hope it will mean something. Well, the main problem for people of Russia, that they are under the propaganda, and the propaganda is based on the ignorance of people. They are not letting them to be informed about what's going on, about history, about reality outside. And it's very important to send messages to Russian people that NATO is not going to invade Russia, and never plan to do that. That Ukraine is not going to kill Russian-speaking people, and all the things that they are providing with their propaganda. So I will need to take off my headphones, because I cannot hear myself in it. So here is the song. You probably know it. Mama, take this batch of me. I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Mama put my gun in the ground. I can't shoot them anymore. That long black cloud is coming down. I feel I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door.
Oh my God, is that good?
So
Jesus, that's great. What a voice this guy. What a voice this guy.
I think that
yeah.
I think if Russian soldiers probably heard this song and understood the meaning and the circumstances, they would probably want to go to Ukraine to kill their people.
God, that's right. Here's a little piece of trivia for you on the song written by Bob Dylan, of course. Sergey, maybe you already know this, but he was on the set doing the movie. He was in it, actually, Billy the Kid, and they wanted a song for the movie. And they told Bob that, like, when they shut down filming at, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening or something like that. And he left the set, came on the set the next morning, bright and early, 7 or 8 a.m., had the song. I mean, that's how long it took him he wrote it overnight. I mean, and that's knocking on heaven's door. The great Bob Dylan, and what a time to play it. What a time to do it. My God, Sergey, that makes an old man weep. I mean, that's great stuff. Well, I got to lock up here. I got to let you go on your way because you've got to thrive. Hell, you got to survive, Sergey. Anything you want to say in closing to our friends here in the heartland, our American audience here before we let you go?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for doing it with me, and thank you for spreading the information. It's very important, and it's very important to not let it go because, this war will not gonna end in nearest days, unfortunately. And the main problem that we all understand that probably in few days, in few weeks, people will get used to what's going on in Ukraine, that Russia is shelling Ukraine with missiles and aircrafts. So it's very important to keep the world informed about what's going on and try to stop this war.
That's right. Let's never get used to it, ever. I mean, never get used to war. I mean, it's hideous. It's horrible. Stop it and keep people like Sergey, and I'm sure he would agree, keep his family safe, right, pal?
Yes, that's all we can wish right now is to stop the killings of women and children and do something to stop it for forever. Yes.
Here, buddy. I hope we check in again very soon and it's all over with and everybody's getting back to normal and people that still have their lives can resume their normal lives. Sergey, thanks again for coming on this podcast by George LiveLine.
Thank you for inviting me. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, and I hope to hear you soon too. Folks, check him out on YouTube. He's great. And folks, if you like a podcast by George, like I always tell everybody at the conclusion of these shows, and we're live on Facebook and YouTube today, you'll be seeing the recorded versions of these. Please go to podcastbygeorge.com. If you go there, you'll see these little badges, these little icons. You can click on any of them and you can get each new episode as it is launched, as it debuts. You'll be notified and you can never miss a single show and see folks like Sergei Tagmaredno out of Kyiv in the Ukraine. But that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. That's another podcast by George.